Working with the OECD LEAD programme, we've been able to investigate recently the impact of hosting international events on local and regional economies. We're talking here about things like the Olympics, the Expo, World Cups, summits, other kinds of events that have traditionally been thought of perhaps as things that would produce some new infrastructure and things that would attract some tourists, but haven't really been thought about in the round in terms of their contribution to local and regional economic development. Through the OECD LEAD programme, we were able to look at more than 60 case studies of how different cities and regions have performed with these events, and we've been able to understand, as it were, why they become more attractive. Just look at who's bidding to host these events now. Over the last 10 years and for the next few years, cities like London, New York, Tokyo, Paris, Madrid, Sao Paulo, and many other of the world's great cities have been competing to host these events. At the same time, South Africa, China, India, Brazil and Russia have all been hosting their first global events for the very first time, announcing their arrival not just as the leading emerging market economies, the BRICS, but as countries that are regularly willing to host the world as part of their normal activities. If you like, the global diplomacy of both nations and both cities has begun to be communicated through the hosting of these events, as well as through other channels. Now, overall, our assessment of these events is that they do indeed provide opportunities to provide a lasting legacy, a permanent dividend, a return on the investment that the cities and the national governments make. And that return can come in a variety of forms. Of course, infrastructure is important, amenity is important as well. Of course, it's important to have a boost to the visitor economy. But beyond that, these events also provide the opportunity for substantial economic diversification. They provide the opportunity for increasing amenities in the area of arts and culture, but also in the area of science and medicine. They also provide unusual opportunities to rationalize land uses, providing large-scale urban regeneration, but also the opportunity to swap land uses at the same time. And, as we know, they provide incredible exposure to a global market, enabling a city or a region or a nation to reposition themselves, to reveal themselves in a new way to a global public that now watches these events. So we've begun to see that there can be positive immediate benefits, benefits later, and benefits in the long term, as has been observed in many case studies. Now the issue is, what makes the difference between those cities or regions that do optimize the impact of hosting an event and those who don't? Clearly, one important ingredient is whether the event itself has been soundly planned and soundly managed. It doesn't help if a city or a region ends up with a huge debt after they've had the event. But more than that, and most importantly, we've observed that it's very essential for cities and for regions to have a kind of parallel organizational system. One part of their project management system needs to be absolutely focused on the hosting of the event, making sure the stadia, the conference facilities, the infrastructure is ready, making sure the event is well managed. That requires a dedicated team of professional people who are really excellent in that arena. But the second team, the second parallel group of effort, is about securing the long-term legacy. And that requires different skills, a different organization, and a different group of people working simultaneously as those who are planning to host the event on planning to leverage the benefits of having it. And that involves people who are focused much more on the economic development benefits, the branding benefits, people who are looking at the events that might come later, the follow-on projects, and in particular developing a very clear story and narrative for how the event is being used to accelerate the existing plans of the city and at the same time to unveil a new set of opportunities that wouldn't otherwise be available. Overall, what we've observed is that in some places, both of these things have been done well. The hosting of the event has been right, and the legacy or the benefit activity has been right. In many cases where we've observed some weakness in what's happened, the city has got one of those things wrong, or occasionally it's got both of those things wrong and has ended up with something which is very costly. So overall, our assessment is international events and the hosting of them can be very good for local and regional economic development, but only if we get into the science of managing them correctly and having this parallel track of doing the event well and also securing the benefits for the long term.